It started with the goats, out on the edge of the Arroyo Blanco, just past where the dirt road crumbled into the basin. The Garcia family's livestock began turning up dead. First, 2 kids from the spring litter, then 4 more in the following week. They were always found in the same state, stiff, cold, eyes wide with terror, with 2 tiny holes pierced into their necks. No blood in the pen, none on the soil, no drag marks, just dry corpses left under the scorching New Mexico sun. At first, everyone blamed coyotes. Even though the Garcias had never seen any near their property in the 12 years they'd lived there, it was the simplest explanation. Coyotes, or maybe mountain lions. But then animals began dying in locked barns. Even the old Billy, Miguel, who was kept inside a reinforced shed with no broken windows, was found drained like a wineskin. By the 3rd week, when the deaths reached double digits, folks around the area began whispering about the Chupacabra. Hector Garcia didn't believe in folktales. He was a mechanic in town, rational and quiet, not the kind of man to put stock in legends passed around campfires. But even he couldn't explain the way the animals died, or the smell something rotten and sweet, like spoiled meat soaked in syrup that lingered long after each incident. One night, frustrated and angry, Hector decided he'd sit up and wait. He brought out a cooler of beers, a lawn chair, and his old hunting rifle and parked himself behind the barn, keeping an eye on the pens from a patch of shadow near the juniper bushes. His son, Daniel, begged to come along, but Hector refused. "You stay inside with your mother. Lock the doors. Don't come out no matter what you hear." That night, Hector didn't sleep, and around 2:46 a.m., under a sliver of moonlight, he saw something he would never forget. It moved like a blur, low to the ground but fast, almost too fast for his eyes to catch. He heard the goats bleating in panic before he saw it, something slinking along the fence line. When it paused near the gate, he got a better look. It was hairless, grayish-blue skin, pulled tight over a wiry frame. Its limbs were long and bent backward, like a kangaroo's, and its eyes glowed orange-red in the dark. Along its back were a row of jagged spines, pulsating with every breath. Hector didn't move. He barely breathed. He felt like a child again, hiding from monsters in the closet. And then it looked at him. The creature locked eyes with Hector and let out a sound high-pitched and warbling, like a baby screaming underwater. It didn't run. It didn't attack. It just stood there, staring, as if daring him to move. Hector raised his rifle with trembling hands and fired. The shot missed, slamming into the fence post behind it. The creature took off in a blink, vanishing into the desert night. In the morning, Hector told his wife they were selling the goats. Every single one. "We're done raising animals," he said, eyes hollow. "We're not feeding that thing anymore." But it wasn't just goats anymore. That weekend, a neighbor's dog went missing. 2 days later, a hiker was found near the edge of the arroyo, her body pale and deflated, like someone had sucked the life out of her. No visible wounds, just the same 2 small holes in the side of her neck. Daniel, defiant and curious, started digging into old stories. He scoured the library, watched grainy YouTube videos, interviewed old locals at the gas station. Most called it a joke, but one old woman, Mrs. Alvarez, told him something that stuck. "You don't kill a chupacabra," she said, clutching her rosary. "You starve it. You move away, burn the land, salt the soil, and pray it doesn't follow. Once it has your scent, you're cursed." Daniel told his father, but Hector wouldn't listen. They couldn't afford to move. The house was paid off. Hector's job was steady. He told Daniel to stop with the nonsense and focus on school. But Daniel could see it, the fear in his father's eyes, every night after sunset. The way he kept the gun loaded even in the kitchen. The way the curtains never opened anymore. Then came the night they lost power. The wind howled that evening, shaking the frame of the house. Lights flickered around 9, then died altogether. The generator wouldn't kick on. The batteries in their flashlights were drained. Even the backup lanterns refused to work. Hector checked the breakers, but the box was fine. It was as if electricity itself had left the property. Outside, something scratched against the windows. Then a low, animalistic growl echoed from behind the walls, coming from all directions. Maria, Hector's wife, clutched Daniel's arm and began to cry. They huddled in the living room, the rifle resting across Hector's lap, and waited. At 1:13 a.m., something slammed against the front door with enough force to shake the frame. "Don't open it," Maria whispered. "I won't," Hector said. Even though his hands were creeping toward the handle, the thing hit the door again. Then a third time. Then silence. For a long stretch, they waited, frozen, expecting glass to shatter or claws to rip through wood. But nothing came. By morning, the power returned. Everything worked like normal, except the front door was cracked down the center, as if split by a massive weight. They called the police, but the officers left shaking their heads. "Could be a bear," they said. "Maybe even a cougar. You live out here, you take that risk." But Hector knew better. The next night, he had them sleep in the cellar. It was cramped and smelled like mildew, but it had no windows and only one entryway. He bolted the trap door from the inside and sat awake while the others slept. At 3:02 a.m., he heard it again. A shuffling above. Something light but deliberate, pacing across the kitchen floor. Then soft scratching on the wood above his head. It lasted hours, and when he finally dared to look around dawn, he found long gouges in the linoleum. Claw marks. 4 twos. Daniel begged them to leave. He offered to find work, to move them into town, even if it meant living in a trailer park or sleeping in the back of a church. But Hector refused. "We're not running," he said, though his hands trembled as he nailed boards across every window. But the Chupacabra didn't need doors or windows. It wanted them terrified. It fed on more than blood. One evening, Hector went missing. Maria found his boots near the barn, one still laced. A trail of prints led out into the arroyo, but halfway through, they simply stopped, like he'd been plucked off the ground. No blood, no signs of struggle, just silence. They filed a missing persons report, but nothing came of it. The sheriff didn't even walk past the barn. "He probably wandered into the desert and got lost," was all he said. Maria went quiet after that. She sat at the kitchen table all day, unmoving, whispering prayers in Spanish. Daniel, furious and desperate, grabbed his father's rifle and decided to hunt the thing himself. He packed a backpack with supplies, salt, a camera, a flashlight, holy water, and a hunting knife and set off into the arroyo. He wandered for hours, calling his father's name, climbing the crags and old animal trails. The sun dropped fast behind the plateaus, and by the time dusk arrived, he was deeper into the wilderness than he'd ever gone before. That's when he saw the cave. It was tucked behind a fallen boulder, nearly invisible, but a faint smell wafted from it rotted meat and something sweet. Just like the air near the goat pens weeks ago, Daniel entered slowly, flashlight beam trembling. The cave was deeper than he expected, winding like a snake through the earth. Bones lined the walls, goat skulls, bird wings, coyote carcasses, and human remains. Torn clothing hung from sharp rocks. A cracked belt buckle read "Ha, Garcia." He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just kept moving, deeper into the darkness. And then he found the nest. It was a pit, dug into the earth, lined with dried blood and bones. Inside lay the creature curled up like a cat, sleeping soundly. It was larger now. Its ribs no longer showed. Its skin glistened with vitality. It was feeding well. Daniel raised the rifle, finger on the trigger, but the creature opened its eyes. It didn't scream this time. It just looked at him, calm, confident. And for the first time, Daniel understood something horrifying. It wasn't just an animal. It knew him. It remembered. It had been watching his family not as prey, but as subjects. A long, slow hunt. A ritual. Before he could fire, the creature vanished in a blur of motion. It was behind him, then beside him, then everywhere. He ran, shooting blindly down the tunnel, hearing laughter in the echoes high, soft, almost human. He didn't remember leaving the cave. He woke up just after sunrise, sprawled near the barn. His backpack was gone. The rifle, missing. A single message had been carved into the barn wall with long, jagged claws. "You fed me well." Maria was never found. Daniel reported everything, but no one believed him. They took the house. The land was sold. He moved to the city and tried to forget. But at night, when the power flickers and something scratches on the walls, he knows it's come again. The Chupacabra always finds its way back.